Have you ever perfected a smile? The kind you wear for family photos or when your husband's important guests arrive. I had that smile down to an art form. For 15 years, I was the perfect political wife with the perfect house and the perfect husband, Ethan. That morning, as I arranged invitations for his fundraiser, he gave me the usual quick kiss goodbye, a gesture so practiced his eyes looked right through me. I ignored the faint, sweet scent of a perfume that wasn't mine, dismissing that cold feeling of being a beautiful prop in my own life. I thought it was just another Tuesday, never imagining that by borrowing his car, I was about to follow a GPS route straight to the second family he'd built behind my back. Before I dive into my story, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and if you'd consider subscribing to my channel. It would mean the world to me and help me keep sharing more stories like this. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Claire, and for 15 years, my life was a masterpiece of perfection, curated with the precision of a museum exhibit. Our house, a sprawling colonial overlooking a serene Connecticut lake, was immaculate. My husband Ethan's political career was soaring, a smooth, unstoppable ascent fueled by his charm and my quiet, unwavering support, and my smile. The one I wore for cameras and constituents was always perfectly in place. That particular Tuesday morning was no different, with sunlight spilling across the polished hardwood floors as I arranged the heavy, cream-colored invitations for his upcoming campaign fundraiser. Each embossed card felt like another brick in the beautiful solid wall of the life we had built together. Ethan came down the stairs, already a portrait of ambition in a dark, perfectly tailored suit. He kissed my cheek, a familiar gesture that had become more of a routine than a moment of connection. His lips were cool and quick, and his eyes, as they always did lately, looked right through me, already focused on his next meeting, his next handshake, his next strategic move. He murmured something about working late, another crucial strategy session that couldn't be missed. I just smiled that practice smile and nodded, the ever-supportive wife playing her part, a role I had perfected over thousands of similar mornings. As he turned to grab his briefcase, a sliver of morning light caught the cuff of his dark wool jacket, and I noticed it. It was a tiny, almost invisible detail, a faint smear of bright, bubblegum pink frosting, the kind you'd find on a child's birthday cake. A strange, dissonant note in the symphony of his perfect appearance. For a second, my mind fumbled for an explanation. Maybe from a charity bake sale or a supporter's breakfast. I dismissed it as quickly as it appeared, another piece of insignificant static in a busy day. But the image lingered, a tiny, cold question mark hanging in the warm, sunlit air long after his car had disappeared down our long, winding driveway. Later that day, I found myself stranded. My own car was at the dealership for its scheduled service, a minor inconvenience in a life built on meticulous planning. Without a second thought, I took the spare key to Ethan's large sport utility vehicle, the one he used for official events. The moment I slid into the driver's seat, the familiar scent of his expensive cologne was there, but underneath it, something else lingered. It was a soft, sweet perfume, a floral note I didn't recognize, and it coiled in the back of my throat. The driver's seat was pushed back just an inch farther than I was used to, and the radio was tuned to a pop music station he openly despised. Small things, trivial things, yet they felt like subtle shifts in the foundation of my reality. To clear the last destination from the navigation system, I reached for the large, glowing touchscreen. My finger hovered over the icon, a simple, friendly image of a house labeled Home. I pressed it, expecting our own address to flash onto the screen before I deleted it. The electronic voice was calm and steady as it announced, calculating the fastest route home. But the address that appeared on the map wasn't ours. It was a small ranch-style law house on a street I'd never heard of, in a quiet, family-friendly suburb on the other side of town, a place called Maple Creek. I stared, my mind racing to find a logical reason. A client, perhaps, a new campaign office, a mistake in the system. And then, as if summoned by my confusion, A notification chimed softly and slid onto the top of the screen. It was a calendar alert, synced from his phone to the car. The words were sharp and clear, burning themselves into my memory. "Pick up cake for Owen, 6th birthday." My breath caught in my chest. A sharp, painful gasp. The world outside the car window seemed to blur and fade, narrowing until the only thing that existed was that screen, that name, and that age. Owen. We didn't know any child named Owen. My heart, which had been beating with the steady, predictable rhythm of my life, began to hammer against my ribs with a frantic, terrifying new pace. In that instant, the tiny, cold question mark from the morning exploded into a universe of shattering doubt. I didn't drive to Maple Creek. Not then. I drove back to my own house, the perfect, silent house by the lake, and parked Ethan's car in the garage, its secrets now humming in the air around me. I walked through the rooms that I had so carefully decorated, touching the cool marble of the countertops and the soft linen of the sofas, but it all felt foreign, like a movie set I had stumbled onto by mistake. The life I thought was mine had suddenly become a fragile illusion, and I could feel the edges beginning to curl and tear away. The shock didn't bring tears. It brought a strange, icy clarity, a cold fire that started deep in my stomach and spread through my veins. That night, I sat down at my laptop, not to review fundraiser guest lists, but to awaken a part of myself I had put to sleep 15 years ago. Before I was Ethan's wife, I was Claire, a financial analyst with a sharp mind for numbers and patterns, in his home office, tucked away in a drawer of old keys. I found one for a PO, box I didn't recognize. A quick search of the address confirmed it was in the next town over. That was my starting point. I drove there the next day and found what I was looking for: paper statements for a credit card issued in his name only. He thought it was the perfect hiding place, but he had underestimated my memory and my resolve. With those statements, a dam of secrets broke. I began to uncover the hidden architecture of his other life. There were payments to a private school, insurance policies with beneficiaries I had never heard of, and monthly transfers labeled simply household expenses. He wasn't just having an affair. He was funding an entire parallel life, built with the money and security I had helped him create, built on the foundation of the career I had sacrificed for his. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was a deep, structural theft of my past, my present, and my future. The cold fire inside me burned hotter, transforming my grief and shock into something harder, something more resilient. It was the calm, calculating resolve of a woman who had just realized the war had been declared long ago, and she was the only one who hadn't been fighting. A few days later, under the cloak of a gray, overcast afternoon, I finally drove to Maple Creek. I parked my car on a neighboring street and walked, my heart a heavy, steady drum against my ribs. The street was exactly as I'd pictured it: quiet, lined with mature trees and well-tended lawns. And then I saw the house. It was a modest, charming home, with a neatly painted blue door and flowers blooming in the window boxes. On the front lawn, a bright green tricycle lay on its side, a silent testament to the life contained within those walls. It was a picture of simple, wholesome family life, a picture so painfully normal, it felt like a deliberate mockery of my own gilded cage. I didn't stay long, just a few minutes, standing across the street half hidden by a large oak tree. But it was long enough. The front door opened, and a woman came out, young and smiling, with a little boy who looked to be about 6 years old, his hair the same shade of gold as Ethan's. He was laughing, a pure, happy sound that the wind carried across the street to me. In that moment, watching them, I felt nothing and everything all at once. The emotional part of me, the wife, the partner, was shattered. But the analyst, the strategist I used to be, took over. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about information. This was about evidence. Over the next few weeks, I became a ghost. I was a shadow trailing the man I thought I knew, a silent observer of a life I was never meant to see. Each time Ethan announced he was working late or attending a last-minute political dinner, I would wait. I'd kiss his cheek, my smile never wavering. And then, once his car was gone, I would follow. The drives to Maple Creek became a grim ritual, each one tightening the knot in my chest, but sharpening the focus in my mind. I learned his patterns, his routines, the way he would stop to pick up groceries or a small toy before heading to that blue door. I watched from the darkness of my car, a silent, patient investigator. One evening, I parked close enough to see through the large, uncurtained living room window. The scene inside was bathed in a warm, golden light, a perfect domestic tableau. Ethan was on the floor, his suit jacket off, his tie loosened, looking more relaxed and carefree than I had seen him in years. He was playing with a little boy, Owen, building an intricate castle out of colorful Lego bricks. I watched as Ethan lifted the boy up, placing him on his shoulders, and the child's peal of laughter was so clear, so full of unguarded joy. It felt like a physical blow. That was the laugh I hadn't heard in my own home for a very long time. That was the man I had fallen in love with, and he was living here, with them. My heartbreak had burned away completely now, leaving behind only the cold, hard certainty of what I had to do. The plan began to form in the quiet darkness of my car on those long nights of surveillance. It was a plan born not of screaming rage, but of cold, calculated precision. The annual Family Heritage Foundation Gala was in 2 weeks. It was the centerpiece of our community's social calendar, an event I had helped organize for years. This year, Ethan was the guest of honor. He was slated to receive the Pillar of the Community Award for his unwavering commitment to family values and integrity. The irony was so thick, so suffocating. It was almost comical. He was going to stand on that stage and speak about the importance of legacy and honesty, and I was going to give him the legacy he truly deserved. My role as an organizer gave me the perfect cover, the perfect access. I was in charge of the tribute video presentation that would play on the large screen behind him as he gave his acceptance speech. I spent days in my home office, carefully compiling 2 different slideshows. The first was the one everyone expected, a montage of our life together, filled with smiling photos from charity events, campaign trails, and carefully staged holiday cards. It was a highlight reel of our perfect marriage, a testament to the lie we were living. It was the perfect setup. The second file was the real one. It was my ammunition, my evidence, my verdict. I worked with a chilling detachment, my hands steady as I reviewed the file from the private investigator. He had confirmed Owen's school registration and, through a source, had managed to get a clear photo of the boy's birth certificate. I used a simple editing program to draw a sharp red circle around Ethan's full name, listed clearly under the heading Father. I added the photos I had taken with the telephoto lens pictures of Ethan pushing Owen on a swing, of him kissing the other woman on the porch of their home. The final piece was a screen recording of the GPS, showing the route from his office directly to that little blue door in Maple Creek. It was a quiet, digital confession. The night of the gala, the ballroom was glittering. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the city's most influential people, their laughter and conversation a low, pleasant hum. I stood by Ethan's side, a vision in a silk gown, my practiced smile firmly in place. He was in his element, magnetic and charming, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, completely unaware that he was the guest of honor at his own execution. He leaned over and whispered, "You look beautiful tonight. Claire, the perfect partner." I just smiled back at him, a genuine smile for the first time in weeks, because I knew he was right. I was the perfect partner for what was about to come. When the time came for his speech, I felt a profound sense of calm settle over me. I watched him walk to the podium as the lights dimmed, and the first slideshow began to play behind him. The curated images of our life flickered across the screen as he spoke, his voice smooth and resonant, filled with empty words about family, trust, and the moral compass that guided him. I had already spoken to the audiovisual technician. I told the young man I had a surprise tribute video for my husband, and that I wanted it to cut in at the very end of his speech for maximum emotional impact. He'd agreed enthusiastically, completely unaware of the role he was about to play. Ethan was reaching the climax of his speech, his voice swelling with false emotion. "Family," he declared, his arms spread wide, "is my bedrock, it is my truth, it is the legacy that matters most." That was my cue, across the room. I caught the technician's eye and gave him a single, almost imperceptible nod. The screen behind Ethan flickered. The smiling photo of us vanished, replaced by a stark black screen. A collective, confused murmur rippled through the audience. Then, the new presentation began. First, the silent, damning video of the GPS route from his office to the house in Maple Creek. Then, a crystal clear photo of him on the porch with his other family, his arm around the woman, his hand resting on Owen's head. A wave of audible gasps swept through the ballroom. Ethan had stopped speaking, frozen at the podium, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. The final image filled the screen, the photo of the birth certificate, his name circled in red, stark and undeniable. Below it, I added a single line of simple, white text. "Congratulations on your second family. Ethan." The silence in the room was absolute, a heavy, suffocating blanket that pressed down on everyone. It was broken only by the sound of Ethan's microphone, which he dropped with a clatter, the feedback screeching through the speakers. I didn't stay to watch the fallout. I didn't need to see the whispers, the horrified looks, the slow, dawning realization on the faces of his most important supporters. While all eyes were locked on the train wreck on stage, I turned and walked. My steps were steady, and even as I moved through the stunned crowd, out of the ballroom and into the cool night air, I didn't look back. I had left the lie in that glittering room, exposed for all to see. The next morning, while the scandal exploded across local news and social media, my lawyers served Ethan with the divorce papers. The petition included the meticulously organized file of his financial infidelity, proof of hidden assets and secret accounts that made any attempt to fight the settlement futile. His political career was over before the day had even begun, his reputation shattered beyond repair. He called my phone relentlessly, his messages shifting from panicked confusion to sputtering rage, and then, finally, to pathetic pleas. I never answered. I had already said everything I needed to say without speaking a single word. Months later, the dust had settled, leaving behind only the wreckage of Ethan's former life. I sat in a new office, in a new city, the skyline stretching out before me through a wall of glass. It was my office, the headquarters of the financial consultancy firm I had built from the ground up, reviving the career I had once so willingly set aside. The framed business degree that had once sat in a box in our attic now hung proudly on the wall behind my desk. I was on a conference call, confidently advising a client on a complex portfolio, my own voice clear and strong in the quiet, peaceful space that was finally mine. My phone buzzed on the desk beside me, a text from an unknown number. I already knew who it was. The message was short, just 5 words. "You took everything from me." I read the words, and a small, calm smile touched my lips. I felt no anger, no triumph, not even satisfaction. I felt only a quiet, peaceful emptiness where all that pain used to be. He was a ghost from a life that no longer belonged to me, with a simple final tap of my finger. I blocked the number and deleted the message. I turned back to the window, watching the endless possibilities of the city lights begin to sparkle as dusk settled. I hadn't taken everything from him. I had simply taken my own life back.